So thank you everyone for joining us. In the spirit of reconciliation, the P&C Federation acknowledges the traditional custodians of their country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend the respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples here today. Good morning everyone, I'm Debbie Clifford, the Projects Officer at P&C Federation, and a warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions throughout the presentation. Please use the Q&A for the questions and answers. Those that may not get answered today, we'll be able to send through later on. P&C Federation launched the webinar program last year in a response to P&C Associations' need for more flexible access to information and training. The PowerPoint and recording of the webinar will be available in a few days, and you'll receive an email from us when it's ready. And it'll also be available on our website. The webinar is on AGMs and audits. We know that this is a busy time for holding AGMs, and you may be starting to prepare for next year's AGM as well if you've already had this year's. We wanted to take this opportunity to assist you in planning in the preparation. This webinar is one opportunity to assist you with information along with many resources that you can find on our website and in our members portal. Thank you also for those that submitted questions, and we will get to those as we go through the PowerPoint. Lorraine White, she's our Member Services Officer, is also joining us today, and she will be facilitating with us. So we'll be sharing that role today. As I said earlier, I'm the Projects Officer, and I have been with P&C Federation for 6 years, and up until the pandemic was delivering face-to-face information sessions to P&Cs across New South Wales. Lorraine has been with P&C Federation slightly longer. She's been with us for 7 years, and she's our Member Services Officer and takes the majority of our calls. The format for today includes an overview of the presentation from both myself and Lorraine, followed by a Q&A at the end. So we'll get underway and we'll ask Lorraine to get us started. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Debbie. Welcome everybody to our webinar today, which is on the AGMs and audits. The overview of the presentation is included in this presentation. We will be doing the purpose of the AGM, membership, preparing for your AGM, audit, who, why and who, election and compliance matters. So the annual general meetings are held once per year as per your constitution. The timing of your AGM is found in your association bylaws, and the bylaws should be held by the secretary. The AGM is timed as per the constitution. The when it should be found, as we said, should be found in your bylaws. And as the secretary is the holder of the administration side of the P&C, they should actually have a copy of your bylaws. If for any reason the AGM has been postponed, as we know, a number of them were postponed last year, and there are only 2 reasons why you would not would postpone an AGM. One being that the audit report is not available at the AGM, because that's a very important part of the AGM, or that you haven't met quorum. Your next date, even though if you've postponed, your next AGM would remain the same as the original date of your AGM, not on the postponed date. So hopefully that'll help with some of those questions around the rescheduling due to last year's pandemic. So the membership year for P&Cs runs from AGM to AGM. So, and membership is paid to a treasurer, and the treasurer would issue a receipt to the member. Who can be a member? Parents, carers, citizens living in the school drawing area, the principals and ex officio, P&C employees, school staff, and guardians of children. So P&C Association employees may become members of the P&C, however, they cannot hold an office bearer position. And the other person who can't hold an office bearer position is actually the principal of the school as ex officio. Any person making membership payment at the AGM will only be able to vote after the close of the AGM and at the next P&C Association meeting, generally the general meeting held directly after the AGM. A person may become a member during the year by paying their membership at a meeting. However, they are not a financial member until the close of that meeting, when the member register is updated by the secretary. If membership is paid between meetings, they are not a financial member until the close of the meeting following, when the monies were paid. Yours, Deb?
Thank you. The purpose of the AGM. Why do we hold an AGM? An AGM is held for the purpose of acquitting the previous year's work that the members of the P&C have done. So to acknowledge that, this includes presenting the President's Treasurer and Principal and Subcommittees reports for the year. So we always advise that you celebrate the successes. You don't necessarily go through and talk about the things that may not have been a great success. You want to celebrate the successes. The annual audit is presented to give the members a very clear and accurate picture of the situation of their financial situation of the P&C. And so that you know moving forward that you are in a financial situation. You don't want to be making decisions when you're already insolvent, when there are no funds there. You nominate the auditor for the upcoming year. Obviously, the elections are held and all of the positions are declared vacant and nominations are called for. The membership fees are also set for the following year. So many P&Cs decide to leave the membership the same, but that still has to be discussed at the AGM. So preparing for your AGM, first of all, you would check your bylaws, the time and date. You would then make sure all the documentation from the Treasurer has been taken to the auditor for the audit. And that will include your minute book, your cash book, your deposit book, checkbook, whatever you have there, your receipt book, invoices, bank statements. Now, it's important that they have the minute book, because in the minute book you would record motions passed for expenditure and what was spent, what the money was spent on. So they're able to tick off against that in regards to the bank invoices and bank statements. Membership is paid. So you would also, we'll go back to you make sure that the register is correct. So the secretary would check that everyone attending the AGM is a current financial member and make sure that only the people voting are current financial members. The AGM is advertised to the whole school community. So everyone is invited to attend, people that may wish to become members, people that might be a little bit interested about what's going on, as well as the members. If the members are unable to attend, then they should send their apologies to the secretary. At the AGM, pay your membership. If you can't attend the AGM, then you would pay your membership prior to that, because at the close of the AGM, if you haven't paid your membership, you're no longer a financial member at the meeting following. Provide written notification if you're not attending the P&C AGM, that if you are nominated, you're happy to accept a position. Now, you might want to say that you'll only accept a certain position, or that you're happy to accept any position that you're nominated for. But in order for that to happen, you must make sure you've given the secretary a letter stating that you're happy to accept that. You have to ensure that the President and Treasurer's reports are ready so that the audit is ready. And as Lorraine mentioned earlier, if the audit's not ready, that is one reason that the AGM should be postponed, because you shouldn't be starting off a new year in your P&C unaware of what the financial situation is. So it's very important to know that. Check your bylaws to make sure that whether there's a tenure in regards to holding a position. So some P&Cs choose to have a tenure of 2 years, that someone can only hold a position for that length of time. However, that tenure is broken if that position is not filled at the AGM. So if, for instance, the President's position, the person in the President's position, when the position becomes vacant, has filled the tenure for 2 years, then they can't be nominated at the AGM for the President position. However, if that position isn't filled, the meeting following the AGM has then broken that tenure. And if that person chose to then self-nominate or be nominated, they could actually take up that position again because that tenure was broken. Other things to think about is giving 14 days notice. So advertise giving people 14 days notice in regards to the AGM. This will include a list of those positions that will be elected. For office bearer positions, you can go to our website, which is quite clearly gives you some information in regards to the expectations of holding that role. To help anyone out that may be interested. And we'll move on to the next one. Audit reports. Many people get very flustered when it comes to audit reports. So audit reports are prepared by an external auditor and tabled at the AGM. P&Cs that are incorporated with P&C Federation must submit the audit report to P&C Federation within a month of their annual general meeting. And the audit report must be certified. That's signed and dated by the auditor and the President. Now, the auditor doesn't have to be an accountant or a chartered accountant, like many P&Cs may think. They have to have an understanding, however, the person must have an understanding of probity in regards to a P&C. And they must have some sort of experience, for example, a bookkeeper. Many P&Cs use bookkeepers, some use office staff, some primary schools go to the high school and ask for assistance through staff at the school there, and vice versa. Depending on the size, however, of your P&C and how many business arms you have of that P&C. So some P&Cs are quite large and have a number of businesses. It's not just a canteen or a uniform shop. They might run an USH and a band committee. So they might have many arms to their P&C. And in that instance, and their income might be quite large. So they're not classed as a small charity. They may need to go to an accountant to make sure that it's done properly and accurately. P&Cs that are not incorporated submit an audited balance sheet and an annual report at their AGM. So you'll also have to make sure the key things that does your P&C have an appointed auditor. So it's done at the AGM for the upcoming year. So your P&C has got a record of who that person will be. And then not just prior to the AGM, everyone's panic on who that person is going to be. If for some reason that auditor is no longer available, then you'll need to see if you can find someone else and call a special meeting to have the members pass a motion that will be the auditor to do the audit. Has your AGM report been prepared for the AGM? So your AGM cannot proceed without an audit report. As we said earlier, you must have an audit report at your AGM. So your audit, again, has to come to P&C Federation. It also goes to Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission, the ACNC. They require that within 1 month of your AGM. The elections. So at an AGM, the president will open the AGM. He'll, excuse my typo there, I can see it. So presented will be the audit report and the president's report and anything else that the treasurer may wish to report. Once that's done, you then hand over the AGM to the returning officer. The returning officer is normally the principal as the neutral party. So even though they're an ex officio member of your P&C Association, at the AGM, they aren't. They become the returning officers. So they have no voting rights at the AGM. And it's also a good idea that the principal often brings someone with them that is also neutral. So in the event that they need to carry out a ballot, there are 2 neutral parties there able to vote. So there is the returning officer checklist. So they need to have a list of the current financial members. And they're the only people that can be nominated for a position. Again, it's really important that they've already paid their membership for the upcoming year. If they're they have to be a current financial member, because if they haven't, at the close of the AGM, they then would no longer be a financial member. Therefore, they couldn't hold the position that they've just been elected for. So this has happened in instances, and P&Cs have found themselves in a bit of a pickle. One minute they had all 5 office bearers. At the close of the AGM, they suddenly had none. So it's really important that you're aware of that and you make sure that you collect your membership for the upcoming year. Check that your quorum has been met. So if you have 49 and under members, the quorum for an incorporated and unincorporated P&C is 5. If you have 50 members and above, for an incorporated P&C, it is 10 as per the change of the Constitution of May last year. If you are not an incorporated P&C, your quorum is 11. So then all the returning officer would declare all the positions vacant. Any nominations that were received prior to the AGM would be the returning officer would have been given. And then the returning officer would also call further nominations from the floor. So even though you may have quite a handful of nominations prior to the AGM, you still must call for nominations from the floor. The nomination, when you call for nominations, they go in a particular order, with the president being first, then the 2 vice presidents, the treasurer and the secretary. And then that's followed by any subcommittee positions that are required or any school representative. So you may choose to, in that instance, we talk about the school may have a finance committee. So there might be someone that sits on the finance committee. You might wish to also make a list of people that, in the instance of requiring somebody for a merit selection panel, that you already have a list of people willing to help out with that. So where there's more than one nomination, you would hold a secret ballot. This becomes a little bit more complicated if you're an incorporated P&C that is doing hybrid balloting or voting. So when we say hybrid, we mean where some people are meeting face to face and the rest of the people may be on Zoom participating in the AGM. If that's the case, it's important to make sure that when you're setting up that Zoom, that you also make sure people have registered. And that way the secretary has a list of people that will be attending AGM via Zoom or whatever platform you choose to use, and can check off whether they're a financial member prior to the AGM. So you would carry out a secret ballot in the face-to-face part of the meeting as you would normally do, whether people write that down and put it in a box and then it's counted. Doing it via Zoom, the only way that you can actually do it completely anonymously is by doing it via a poll. So you can set that up prior to the meeting where you have polls set up for each position, and you would then either place the names of the nominations within that poll before opening the poll to those who are participating via Zoom, or you would allocate a letter to each person. So for instance, Bob's A, Joe's B, and Helen's C. And people would vote according to those. So you might have in a chat box, you would put up what they are so people can clearly see what letter they need to check out if they're voting. I mentioned earlier, if you needed a second person, it should be independent. The returning officer can't influence who's nominated or who's voted for. I know in some instances it's very difficult because there is a great relationship between the returning officer and some of the office bearer or past office bearers. However, it needs to be kept extremely neutral. The result should be given and then a thank you to all nominees and congratulations to the person who was successful in that position. If for a reason, any reason, or if there's a tied vote, then there's a couple of options. One, you can toss a coin. The person who wins the toss is removed, and the person that didn't win the toss, I know it's a bit strange, it sounds very odd, but they're the successful person for that position. Or again, you can put names in a hat, pull out the name that is pulled out is removed, and the person remaining is the successful nomination. The returning officer then welcomes the new committee and hands the meeting over to the new president. So the president has a little bit of a checklist. So they have to ensure that the membership is set for the year. So you would move a motion to increase the membership from $1 to $2, or move a motion that the membership remains the same as $1 for the upcoming year. So the membership fees are collected. So making sure that everyone has paid their membership. If someone isn't able to attend the AGM, has given an apology, but wishes to remain financial for the upcoming year, then we always suggest that the P&Cs arrange with the principal to have something in the office, maybe with a membership form, so members can complete that, put their money in an envelope and put it in the box, and then that's collected either prior to the AGM day or on the day of the AGM. You would make sure an auditor has been appointed for the upcoming year, and that you carry a motion that states the names of the new office bearers, their roles, and that they will be the signatories on all accounts and the responsible persons of the P&C Association. Now, that's a really important motion that must be moved in an AGM, because that is the documentation, the minutes from the AGM that you take to your bank when changing the signatories, but also they're the names that will be used on ACNC as the responsible persons and ABR, so the Australian Business Register. So I'll hand that over to you now, Lorraine.
Not a problem. Compliance. There's a few questions that you need to ask yourselves around a compliance, and one is your organisation incorporated? If yes, you need to send a copy of the audited audited financial statements to P&C Federation within a month of the AGM. If not, contact the P&C Federation to get more information. All member associations must also complete a member register update, which is available on the website under members. This will ensure that all of the office bearer information is up to date and current, because P&C Federation is an advice and support service to its current members and their responsible persons, which are the office bearers. So we will ask you if you're an office bearer or not, and check against our database when we're talking to people from P&Cs. Ensure that the President and Secretary have access to the passwords for the P&C Associations affiliate email account as provided by P&C Federation. Email affiliate support at pandc.org.au if assistance is required. So should there in the handover, should you not be given the passwords, or should the passwords be forgotten, definitely send us an email at affiliate support, and the girls will make sure that they can reset your password and get you you rolling on to gaining access to your emails. Update the contact details of your Australian business number, your ABN. P&Cs are required by law to update the Australian Business Register within 28 days of any changes in your registered business details, including changes to the authorised contact person. You need to update the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission, the ACNC registration. So P&Cs who are registered with the ACNC will need to update their responsible person information and contact details within 60 days of any change. And please note that ACNC is currently reviewing P&C Association governing documents. So please ensure you've uploaded the current constitution. So as there was an amendment to the prescribed constitution in May 2020, this is now the current constitution. So for an incorporated P&C, you need to update your governing documents with the ACNC. We've also noted a number of P&Cs across the board have a number of different things in their governing documents that are not necessarily governing documents. They have their bylaws uploaded. They have P&C Federation's constitution, which is only for the board. They have their annual information statement that they filled out for ACNC uploaded, audit reports and minutes, and letters of documentation that are very different and definitely not your governing documents. A P&C association that's not registered with the ACNC does not have charity status and may be required to pay tax by the ATO. So each P&C should at least consider becoming registered with the ACNC for the charity status. So things to remember: a P&C association is an autonomous entity. P&C associations are not part of the Department of Education. A P&C association should have a collaborative partnership with the school and staff. P&C associations can work alongside the staff in a positive promotion of the school and the school community. P&C Federation is the peak body who offers advice and support and resources to our member organisation, and these P&Cs are represented by their 5 office bearers. P&C Federation has no authority over any P&C association. So for P&Cs also, the partnership with your school is really important. The positive partnership, that's what is the main aim and game with P&Cs, is trying to have that positive rapport with the school and with your school community, because it's all about promoting the school and helping students under the objectives. It's about bringing the school, the staff, school community together and providing resources and facilities, the benefit and welfare of the students of the schools. So the concentration is definitely for the students of your school. Debbie? Deb, you want to take off mute?
My apologies, everyone. Not often I'm muted. So this is just some information for you in regards to P&C, obviously, where to find where you need to go as the responsible persons of your association. So there's lots of information on our website, and you can always send an email to us at mail@. Often it's a good idea to send an email because that way you have the response in writing and you can take it back to your members at a meeting. Always happy to take calls, as we do often every day. And it's nice to really be able to touch base with our members. So our phones are from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m, Monday to Friday. Member register update. This PowerPoint will be sent out to you, so the link is set in it. However, it is on our website under our members tab, and that's where you'll find your member register update. If you need to send inquiries in regards to what insurances your P&C might have, if that information hasn't been passed across, then you can also always email insurance@pandc.org.au. Again, ABR is the Australian Business Register. Sorry, I've got to be excited there. Jump to the next one. And then ACNC, as Lorraine just said, that is the legislative body for charities. And if you're not a registered charity, then you may encounter the tax man coming after you to pay tax. So it is really important P&Cs are registered charities. So before we get on to our Q&A session, and we have a number of questions come through, some that we've answered online, others we will answer as they come up. So to celebrate P&C Day, this year P&C Federation is doing a P&C Community Leadership Virtual Town Hall, a town hall event, which means that we can have everybody. It's a bit like that singing around the country where you can see everybody on the screen. So, and everyone will have the opportunity to participate during that live event. So it's open to all parents, carers and P&C Association members. As we said, it will be interactive. There'll be some guest speakers. We will have a couple of guest speakers who have been P&C members of their own P&Cs, one of which was our New South Wales P&C Volunteer of the Year for last year, or for 2019, who was awarded last year, and another one from a regional P&C who's a president out there. We also have a guest speaker that will talk about volunteering. So to register, you can go to our website. Now that will be live as of this afternoon to start registering for the town hall event. It is being held on P&C Day, which is Wednesday, the 3rd of March, in the evening from 7 till 9. So please hop on, have a chance to have a listen, ask some questions, and we look forward to seeing you there. So we're going to move on now to some questions. Oh, excuse me.
Debbie, I'll just start at the top with the questions,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Lorraine.
Okay, so this one's from Alex. If something isn't done that should be done by the outgoing committee at an AGM, e.g. appoint an auditor, can you complete the business at the next general meeting?
Okay, if something isn't done that should have been done by outgoing committee.
Yeah, at the AGM. So they forgot to appoint an auditor.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You need an auditor. So what we would always advise that if you haven't at the AGM nominated an auditor and voted for that, then you would do a bit of research. So not necessarily at the next general meeting, but you might discuss it. We haven't nominated an auditor for this year, and you might nominate someone with the task of investigating options and then bring that back to the following meeting after that to vote upon. So best practice is have it done at the AGM, but if for some reason that hasn't happened, then by all means you need to have an appointed auditor, but we would always recommend you do your research because it can be quite costly if people are looking at doing it via accountants, and it's not a requirement that an audit's carried out by a qualified accountant. Okay, so is it okay to bring the AGM forward by a day? Do we need to give more than 14 days notice? I'll give that one to Lorraine.
Okay, preferably you would keep to the bylaws, because whatever's in your bylaws is your rulings. But should it be totally unavoidable, you definitely would need to make sure that they have 14 days notice. And we would suggest that you would definitely let everybody know why you actually changed a day. It should be held on the day that's stated within your bylaws.
Okay, so we've got one in the chat. So clarifying membership. Okay, so membership lasts until the close of the AGM. So if you're a financial member, it's fine that you pay your membership on the day of the AGM. It doesn't have to be paid prior. However, if you're not going to attend if you're not able to attend the AGM and you've sent your apologies to the secretary, then yes, you would have to pay that membership prior to the AGM. So at the close of the AGM, the member register can be updated and your membership has already been paid for the upcoming year. So the next one. So this is Alex. If there's no bylaws in place or you want to change them, e.g. date of the AGM, suggesting moving it to the March meeting, not February, can you change bylaws at an ordinary meeting? By our understanding of incorporated associations is that you can call a special meeting. Am I right thinking special meetings don't work in the same way for P&Cs? So many P&Cs say they haven't got bylaws. In their constitution, they have to have 2 bylaws. Now, they may at the minimum 2 bylaws, and that's when your AGM is and when your general meetings are. And they're set in laws as a consistent. So they're not changed at a whim. For somebody that might be in the school community that suddenly decides, oh, it's the first Tuesday of the month that the P&C meetings happen, I'm going to attend those or going to attend the next one. And then for some reason that meeting's been changed and no one in the community's been told, only the financial members. So it's a consistency that needs to happen. So we would always advise that if you can't find your records, and the secretary should be the holder of those bylaws, that they've been lost or misplaced and you need to put in place some bylaws. And that can be done over time. So as in you could get a working party together. We have suggested bylaws online that you can go by. And then you put a document together with the suggested bylaws, and you take those to a meeting. Any bylaws that are being implemented or being changed, you have to give the members a month's notice. So they have to be able to see what those changes or those new bylaws are going to be and have them for a month so they can think about them, investigate anything they may want to investigate before it goes back to a P&C meeting and they're voted on. Now, if you've got your bylaws all in one document, that's fine. If someone has a question about a bylaw that's within that, they could say, can we pull out bylaw A and bylaw F, because I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, but I don't have an issue with any others. You can then put it to the members. We're going to take those two bylaws out for further discussion. Does everybody, do we approve? And you can vote on the rest of the bylaws. So you're not going through each bylaw one by one, because everyone should have had the opportunity to already go through those.
There's one here, Deb. Is it normal for the school principal to be the returning officer?
Yes, it is. The school principal, as a neutral person, is normally the returning officer. However, if the school principal said, I'm unable to make the AGM, so your AGM can't go ahead, that's actually not the case. You can actually nominate someone else. So you could ask, for instance, someone in your community that you know is interested in the school community, but is actually doesn't participate in the P&C. If they're willing to be the returning officer, explaining to them what their role would be. You would then have to also take it to your meeting. So you would hope that the principal would give you a little bit more than 1 week's notice that they're not going to be able to attend. That's why it's good to advertise the meeting 14 days in advance. So you're able to have the opportunity, if you need to call a special meeting to put in place another returning officer. Now, there is no reason why, and I'll just say it, there is no reason why to cancel your AGM because people that are currently holding positions or are wanting to put their hand up for a position aren't able to attend. As long as you have your audit and you meet quorum, that AGM can still go ahead. And as we said earlier, if someone is happy to accept a nomination, then they put in their apologies to the secretary along with the note that states, in the event I am nominated for, okay, if it's one position, president, I'm happy to accept. Or if I am nominated for any position, I'm happy to accept. So there's no reason to postpone it because someone can't make it. So those reports that the president would give would be handed to someone else, so the vice president, to deliver at the meeting.
Debbie, I've got a clarification required from the chat. Doesn't the returning officer need to be a P&C member? No,
they don't. The returning officer needs to be a neutral party at the meeting. So the principal has to be neutral. They have no, if they're the returning officer, they have no voting rights whatsoever at the AGM. Most principals that want to have voting rights pay the membership, even though they're automatically, because of their position, an ex officio member. Many principals just make the decision to pay the membership as well. But absolutely not. The returning officer does not need to be a P&C member.
Can you fill vacant committee positions, including executive, like one VP not filled at any general meeting?
Yes, you can. So any positions that are vacant, and we call them those when they're not filled, so a casual vacancy. So at the very least, for a P&C to operate, they must meet quorum, and they must, to be able to operate bank accounts, they must have at least 2 office bearers, because they're the only ones that can be signatories. So a P&C can still operate and function quite well to begin with, for instance, a VP and a secretary, because they both can be signatories on accounts, so they can pay wages if need be. They can continue on with the normal business of the P&C as long as there's a quorum. So as long as there's at least 5 financial members to meet that quorum. In saying that, yes, those casual vacancies are then to be put on every agenda for every general meeting until they're filled. If they're not filled, then they go on to the next agenda. So at every general meeting you call for nominations. We have a casual vacancy for Vice President. I call them VP1 and VP2 because there is 2 positions for Vice Presidents. So I'd say there is a casual vacancy for the position of VP1. Do I have any nominations? I'd look around the room. We have no nominations. It remains a casual vacancy. Now it will go on to the agenda of your next meeting. And that would just continue like that until that position's filled.
Okay. Membership, I've got Louise again with to clarify, if a new or existing financial member wish to vote be nominated for a new position in 2021, they paid their membership at the meeting prior to the AGM, are they eligible to vote or be nominated?
Okay, so that's something that your P&C really needs to clarify, because it can become quite confusing. Some P&Cs make a decision that from a certain point in time, they are only collecting membership for the upcoming year. So your P&C has to be very clear that at the AGMs next month, we're collecting membership as of today for the upcoming year. However, if somebody wanted to vote at the AGM and be a financial member from that general meeting, they could ask to do so. So they'd go, this is my membership for this year. At the close of that general meeting, they then become a financial member and are eligible to vote at the AGM. However, at the AGM, they then have to pay membership again for the upcoming year. So it's 2 lots of membership within a short period of time. So really it is a discussion that the members have to decide on. Are we going to have a cutoff date? Are we only going to take membership for the upcoming year at the last meeting that we have? And it really is it's a decision of the members. But if that person is happy to pay 2 lots of membership, then there's no reason why they can't do that if they want to be eligible to vote at the AGM.
So, and following on from that, if previously existing financial members wish to vote and be nominated for a new position in 2021 and they have not paid at the meeting prior to the AGM, can they pay before the AGM or during the AGM to be eligible to vote or be nominated? I think you've sort of covered it, but maybe it's the clarity of their membership doesn't end until the end of the AGM. And at the AGM, the collections for the following year, correct, Deb?
Yes.
Okay. Given that responsible persons should be checked against banned and disqualified list, and nominations can come from the floor at the AGM, are positions pending subject to confirming banned status, or do we need to check the names before voting for executive?
Okay, I probably need a little bit more clarity around that, Belinda, in regards to what do you mean against banned or disqualified list? Are we talking about working with children check? In regards to what you're mentioning, that's a little bit, it could be a number of things, and I don't want to respond if what I'm not saying is correct or what you mean.
So, Belinda, if you can put more detail into
it. If you could clarify a little bit more, that would be great. Because P&C members that are parents of children, parents or grandchildren, sorry, again, parents or grandparents of children that are enrolled at the school are not required to have a working with children check unless they're doing an overnight stay for a particular camp. Anything that the school requires in regards to working with children checks is the responsibility of the principal and the school, not the responsibility of the P&C. So the only people that are required to have a working with children check are employees in regards to a P&C, or a community member that doesn't have a child at the school that may be, for whatever reason, be working in close proximity to children more than 5 times across a year. So you need to look at the website in regards to who's exempt and who isn't, to ensure that we follow legislation.
Okay. Could you clarify, Debbie, what you were saying re tenure? Are tenures determined by Federation?
No. So tenures it's a decision that the P&C actually make in a bylaw. So it's a bylaw that they pass that states there'll be a tenure of 2 years for any position held for any person holding a position in, whatever it is, P&C. But no, it's not our decision whatsoever. We always recommend that, you don't go past, don't have too many years within your tenure if you choose to have one, because that sort of alienates people wanting to put their hand up because they go, what's the point? This person always gets chosen. But I guess that's the other thing that P&Cs need to think about when they're electing people into positions. What is the plan moving forward when, for instance, that president that's held the position for 3 years will be leaving in a year? We always say to P&Cs, you need to think about a succession plan, and it's often as a succession plan a good idea to that person that's been holding that president position goes, look, I'm not even going to stand for president this year. I'm only going to be here for another 12 months or 2 years. I'm happy to put my hand up as vice president, and that way I can assist the president to do a proper handover, and so they don't feel like they've been just thrown in the deep end. So it is totally up to your P&C.
Can you clarify what the quorum is for non-incorporated general meeting and AGM?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Can you clarify what the quorum is for non-incorporated P&Cs for their general meetings and AGMs?
Yes. So for a P&C that isn't incorporated, the quorum is 5 for 49 and under members, financial members. And this is for a general meeting or an AGM. And if you have 50 and above members, then the quorum is 11. So that remained the same. The minister didn't change the standard constitution at all, or amend the standard constitution at all, when the prescribed constitution was amended last May.
Okay, so the next one is, do we need our own constitution, potentially based on P&C Federation constitution, or just the bylaws, minimum 2 about the AGM and general meetings to be held?
Yep. So some P&Cs get a little bit confused. If your P&C is incorporated, that's the prescribed constitution. If your P&C isn't incorporated, that's the standard constitution. Some P&Cs are incorporated under fair trade. We don't talk to that constitution because we don't have experience and we don't know what's in that. So prescribed constitution, standard constitution, they are the 2 governing documents for P&Cs in New South Wales, other than those incorporated under fair trade. The P&C Federation constitution is different again. That's P&C Federation's constitution, not P&C's constitution. In saying all of that, none of them can be changed in any way, shape or form by a P&C or by P&C Federation. That is only done by the Minister for Education. So anything that you want to put in there specifically for your P&C is a bylaw. However, it cannot contradict what's in your constitution. So if it states, which it does, office bearers are the president, treasurer, 2 VPs and the secretary, you can't have a bylaw and say, well, we're going to have a president, an assistant president, a secretary and an assistant secretary to help out. You can't nominate those positions. They're not valid. They're contradicting the Constitution. Therefore, they don't exist. They can't exist.
Debbie, Belinda has put up some extra information re the disqualified persons. She's saying she's talking about the ACNC requirements on responsible persons as not disqualified or banned from being an executive on an organisation, not the WCC, the Working with Children check.
Okay. Well, I'll let you answer that one then, Lorraine, because I can't find it.
Yeah, I'd have to look more into that one, Deb. I haven't chased that one.
Yep.
Do you have anything on that one?
So no, I mean, you're absolutely right there, Belinda, because obviously they can't hold a position if they've been disqualified. Some P&Cs have a disclaimer that they put in their own documents to, however, yes, we'd have to, it's not something that we normally deal with, that we've had an issue with, something that's been raised, but we do understand that, yes, you don't want a disqualified person being the treasurer of, it's not the done thing. So that's probably something that we will take offline, Belinda, and further investigate and how that works or how that relates to individual P&Cs and what may need to be put in place. Because it's not really a question that comes up very often, even though I know it absolutely can be an issue. So leave that with us and we'll give you some more information about that at a later date.
Okay, can you explain the importance of knowing who the auditor is rather than members simply agreeing on a minimum or maximum cost of an audit? Is this a practical requirement?
The reason why you need to know who the auditor is, it's to be clear, it's to be transparent, to know that they're an unbiased party, and any decisions that are made, regardless the operations of the P&C, are decisions of the members. So for those reasons, yes, the members must know who the audit is going to be.
Can a school staff member, they are currently paid P&C member, take on an office bearer role?
Yes, they can. And we have this happen quite often in regional areas where there is small school and we have teachers holding office bearer positions. The principal, however, cannot hold an office bearer position.
Okay, Joanne's made a comment on the disclosure stuff. She's just gone, I think the onus is on the candidate to disclose to the P&C.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Joanne, but that's why it's important that P&Cs have some sort of disclaimer, and many P&Cs use a membership form. So, you know, to have a disclaimer at the bottom to state if you are to be, you know, voted into a office bearer position, you declare that you are not a
prohibited or banned.
Yep. So I've got a question here in regards to, this was a question that came in prior to today's webinar. And it is, oh my goodness. What are most P&C's financial year end date and when do they hold their AGM? So this is someone looking to change this. So there's probably two common financial year financial years that P&C's run by. One is January to December and the other is July to end of June. So, and AGMs are often held in March and in August to, I guess, align with those end of year. It is the decision of the P&C when their financial year is. However, if you plan on changing it again, you have to give the members a month's notice. You have to also make sure that you notify if you're registered with ACNC as a charity, that you're changing or amending when your financial year is, because they keep a record of that as well. So they know when they should be receiving your annual income statement. So it's important to follow through. It's not just a case of one easy change. You have to make sure that you've crossed all your T's as well.
Okay, in the question and answer step, we have a P&C employee, canteen, etc., hold an office bearer role.
An employee, so someone that is paid by the P&C, cannot hold an office bearer position, no. So office bearers are the ones that would discuss all matters relating to an employee. So while we say the decisions or of the members, we have to be mindful of privacy and confidentiality. So if a P&C was looking to employ someone, they would put a proposal forward to the members to state that they were looking to employ someone, and they might put an award range that they're looking at paying. They might budget it for the higher award to ensure that you can cover costs. So by employing someone, you're not going to suddenly make the P&C operate insolvently, especially if you're employing someone and, for instance, the canteen barely covers the cost of the goods, let alone employing someone. So you wouldn't be able to have an employee involved in that initial conversation. If there's an issue, so the employee is not happy with their job or they have a concern, they would come to the office bearers. If they had a complaint, they would come to the office bearers. If you have a canteen subcommittee, for instance, then you might it might be the convener of that subcommittee that works directly with that employee with carrying out the tasks that have been set in regards to maybe doing a canteen audit or talking to them about, look, we're looking at reviewing the menu, let's work together. But the convener, unless they were an office bearer, would have nothing to do with the conversation in regards to direct employment matters. Hope that answers that one.
Can the P&C have an assistant treasurer or secretary position? And is there an acceptance form that must be signed by the person accepting a role?
Well, no, there isn't, because as I mentioned earlier, an assistant isn't within the constitutions. There are no assistant positions, so therefore there are no positions. They don't hold any responsibility within an organisation. Many P&Cs structure their P&C. So the president, if you look at the president as, I guess, the overall supervisor, looks down to make sure the decisions are implemented and the tasks are carried out. But the treasurer role and the secretary role is a huge role. It's a lot of work. So many P&Cs choose to appoint one of the vice presidents to the treasurer to assist the treasurer, and the other vice president to assist the secretary. This helps in regards to easing the workload, but it also helps if the secretary is not able to attend a P&C meeting, then the VP that's been assisting them knows what's been going on, so they can deliver the report for the secretary. And that works the same for the treasurer. So the treasurer is unable to attend, the VP can still deliver the treasurer's report. And that's really important, because you don't want to be making, when you have a general meeting and you're making financial decisions, we would advise strongly you make no financial decisions unless you have a current treasurer's report present and you're very clear on what money is available to be spent. So that would be our recommendation, that you use your vice presidents to support those other office bearers. The vice president also supports the president. So if the president isn't available to chair the meeting, they would call on one of the vice presidents to chair that meeting. But it just gives a shared role within the office bearers, rather than getting people outside. You have to remember that bringing in an assistant treasurer that's not an office bearer is going to be seeing, if you're paying an employee, what those wages are. That's breaching privacy and confidentiality. If the secretary receives a letter of complaint from an employee and it's someone outside of the office bearers receiving that letter of complaint, again, it's breaching privacy and confidentiality. So you have to be aware of the responsibilities as an office bearer, and that's why we recommend you use your vice presidents.
Okay, the other part of that was, is there an acceptance form that must be signed by a person accepting a role? Which we would say there isn't one provided by us.
No. So it's truly up to, the P&C itself. As I mentioned earlier, many P&Cs have membership forms, and within those membership forms, they actually state any policies that you may have in place, and your P&C might have in place, so a code of conduct, any procedures that you have in place, that those new members or members that have joined the P&C are aware of all of that information, where to go, what to do. And so by signing to become a member of the P&C, they're agreeing to comply with what's been put in place. So the code of conduct, the money handling process that the P&C does, so it's all in one document. You're not getting, and if you can have a tick box if you were to take on an office bearer position, but no, as an assistant, we have nothing, because they're not a recognised position.
Is there a difference between office bearers and the people that make up the P&C executive?
Yes, there is. So the office bearers are the 5 office bearers that we talk about. So the president, 2 VPs, secretary and treasurer. They're the office bearers. So the executive, or what makes up the executive, are those office bearers and up to 6 financial members. Some P&Cs, if they've got a number of different business models happening, say that the conveners of those business models, so bush, canteen, uniform shop, band, tutor, whatever it is, those conveners form the executive. The executive committee's role is not a decision-making role, it's a committee. And it's a committee to make sure that the decisions, while you have subcommittees to make sure that the decisions are carried out in regards to a canteen or a uniform shop, the executive committee's role is to also make sure that those decisions are implemented. So the president may delegate to one of the executive, can you follow through on this? Can you make sure this was done? Can you check on this? In an executive position. So pass on that delegation, but they have no decision-making power. And neither do, and the office bearers only do in relation to certain aspects of employment. So, for instance, if there's a grievance, they don't bring that back to the meeting because that's a breach. So there is a difference, yes. So if you're an office bearer and you don't have an executive committee with 6 other members, you're the office bearers, you're not the executive. I guess that helps clarify.
If the president is unable to attend the AGM, given that they're leaving the school, can the secretary take on the role of conducting the AGM, or should this be Vice President 1? Noting that both the secretary and VP 1 are also leaving the school, so no conflict of interest in the new roles.
Yep. So if the president's unable to attend the AGM, in the natural progression, it is the VP's role to step up to be the chair at the meeting, and the president, hence the name Vice President. The secretary has their own role at the AGM, and that is to make sure that they've checked that they have all the current documentation up to date. The member register is up to date. All financial members are recorded. They would check that off against the treasurer. The treasurer would have a receipt book of all financial members, and she would make, and the secretary would make sure that the returning officer is well aware of who the financial members are.
Who should pay P&C employees? At the moment, they're paying themselves. Is this normal and okay?
No, it's not normal or okay. P&C employees should be paid by the P&C. So as we mentioned earlier, the office bearers are the signatories on the accounts. So they are the ones authorising the payment. So they're paying the employees. So some P&Cs have a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper makes sure everything is set up correctly to do the payment. So MYOB or whatever format they're using in regards to their employees paying their contributions that need to be paid if they're entitled, etc. They might even set up the payments within the account, but they don't have the authority to approve the payments. And then the office bearers come in and approve the payments. So best practice is, and we would always recommend, employees not paying employees, not paying themselves. And that needs to be rectified in a way that, you know, you don't want to all of a sudden, this person's been doing a great job and they suddenly think you believe that they're doing something dodgy and that's why it's been taken away. We would actually, you know, advise you to sit down and have a chat and go, in actual fact, we've been doing this incorrectly, because you need to be able to provide your employees with their pay slips. So just have a chat with them and say, look, we've got to look into this and we need to have the process rectified.
Where P&C collects membership at the first meeting of the year and subsequently throughout the year as new people come, and bylaws state that membership is valid for the calendar year, not AGM to AGM, is this incorrect, and do these bylaws need to be changed?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go, Lorraine. Go.
Oh, sorry, Deb. I was just going to say that it actually contradicts the Constitution. So, yes, the bylaws do need to be changed, that the membership is to be from the end of one AGM till the end of the next AGM. So, yes, I would be changing the bylaws to come in line with that.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. So it looks, have we covered all the questions? I think we have.
Have a look at some of the ones from before, Deb.
From that we got sent in that arrived. Yeah. Yep. I'm just having a quick look at them now.
Do we have an AGM members pack available? No, we don't actually have a pack, but we do have the AGM checklist on our website.
And that checklist is really handy to have. It gives you an idea. Well, it outlines what you need to do prior to your AGM, during your AGM, and then what you need to think about and do to be compliant following your AGM. So it's a really handy, simple to read document that you can find on our website. Most of the information, we do have some information under FAQs on our website, but as we are revamping our website a little, a lot more information you'll just find in the one place, and that will be under the members tab on our front page. So wanting to understand the need for keeping hard paper copies of financial data if everything is stored electronically. Again, it's a decision of your P&C. There really is no, if you've got everything stored electronically, if it's on a USB, I'd really consider, I'd be a little bit worried because USBs sometimes die. If you're using Office 365, so the affiliate email that all financial members are entitled to have set up through us, then they come with a terabyte of storage, each account, and you can have up to 5 accounts. If you're saving your documents in files within there, then I would say absolutely, that's fine. We have an agreement with Microsoft, if any files are accidentally or on purpose deleted, that they can be recovered. So if they're stored in a folder in the cloud, and all of that documentation is stored on servers within Australia, so Sydney and Melbourne. So again, that was another agreement we had with Microsoft when setting up the affiliate emails. So no, you don't have to carry around that shopping bag of paper copies everywhere. We would advise, however, that you have a ledger, for instance, for your motions. So that's updated. Once your minutes for your meeting where motions have been passed have been accepted by the members, then that would be updated into the ledger as a motion. So a motion was approved or was passed to, provide $100 every year to the library, the school library, as an example. So that would mean that you would date when that was, when the decision was made, and if it was ongoing. And that makes it really easily accessible to see where the decisions were made for what money is to be spent as a one-off, but also ongoing. So it's an easy record to track what you've got, rather than have to go through all your minutes. So you would keep your meeting date, and then when it was approved by members, and whether it's an ongoing decision or whether it's a decision as a one-off. Now, we would always recommend that you review your bylaws annually, just because things change, or you might have a bylaw in place that says that you've had in place for some time, but it really doesn't fit the school model anymore. And it might be because there was a bylaw that, the school was tiny, there was 100 students. The P&C will donate $50 to each student representing the school. The school has now, that was a bylaw that was put in place like 10 years ago. The school's now amalgamated with a number of other schools, and there's over 1,000 students. I'm just giving you a scenario. And, the representation that students could have might outweigh what your fundraising capacity is. So therefore you might want to review that bylaw, for instance, and state that $50 will be given to any student that reaches a certain level, or you might decide to remove that bylaw altogether because it's just not financially viable for the P&C. I'm just having a look at if we've got any other.
Yeah, we've got, Belinda's asked, previous to this webinar, we submitted a question about reports. Yep. Which report should be presented to the AGM, e.g. profit and loss, trial balance, balance sheet, reconciliation reports.
Yep. So all of those all that documentation that you're talking about in regards to your reports, obviously the auditor needs to have all the documentation you can give them in order for them to do the audit report. What you present at the AGM is the actual audit report. So often the audit report is an overview of all of that information with recommendations at the bottom. So it should be whatever you get back from the auditor is presented to the members. However, we would always advise, again, if you have employees, that nothing is disclosed in regards to their wages, and that would always be included as operational costs for the canteen. So operational cost of the canteen for this period was this amount, inclusive of supplier invoices, employee wages, and any other entitlements, the hiring of equipment, whatever it would be, rather than disclosing anyone's individual amounts. And that, again, is just meeting privacy and confidentiality legislation.
Okay, but our bylaws, I'll start that again. Our bylaws state that the membership payment covers you until the close of the AGM in the year following. So if you pay in February, then you are covered till after the AGM in March of the following year, effectively giving you voting rights at 2 AGMs. This is to involve new members from the start of the calendar year. Financial year is the calendar year. Is this acceptable?
Okay, so yeah, it's AGM to AGM. You can't, again, if that bylaw states that, then it's on contradiction to the governing document. So if your AGM is in August, people pay in August, then their memberships carries through until the following August. New members this is where some people get confused. New members can pay at any meeting, but it only lasts until the upcoming AGM, the close of the upcoming AGM. So that's why directly following an AGM, P&Cs hold a general meeting, because that enables anyone that wishes to become a new member at the AGM can pay their membership, and at the close of that AGM, the membership is updated and they're a financial member for that general meeting that follows the AGM. And that could be 5 minutes after the AGM. So any positions that may have been casual vacancies, that person can now put their hand up for that position. So unfortunately, that bylaw, like I said, contradicts the Constitution, and therefore is null and void if it was taken, if someone was to question that.
Okay, we've got to follow on straight from that, from Alex going, I'm not sure if this question I asked earlier, accepting payments for 2 years, technically separate $1 payments, but collected in February was answered. Did I miss it? Question just asked is similar issue and just a differing way of approaching it. So
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused here. So
yeah, they're bouncing on this one. We can't have been clear enough because they've got another one that, so if we've already asked new members to pay for new membership on the first meeting of the year,
yep,
meeting before the AGM, I assume they now need to repay at the AGM to cover the new membership year.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Unless you've stated at that meeting prior to the AGM, this membership is for the upcoming year. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. If they wish to vote at the AGM, so if they wish to vote at the AGM, then they have to understand that they pay their dollar at that general meeting that happens before the AGM. The close of that general meeting, the member register is updated. So they're now a financial member going into the AGM. If they then wish to remain a member for the upcoming year, they need to pay membership again. If they're not particularly fussed and don't care about voting at the AGM, it is a decision whether you're going to happy to accept their payment at that last general meeting for the upcoming year, where they'll have no voting rights at the AGM. It won't come into play until the close of the AGM.
And also needing to remember that the AGM's where you set your fees, so you may actually change your fees at the AGM.
And if that's the case, they'll then have to adjust their payment. So if you changed it from $1 to $2, they would then be required to pay another $1.
Okay, we have one here. Do we need to pass a motion to decide which other representatives we want to add to the executive committee, e.g. uniform shop, band, grants, etc.?
Yes, so it would be a motion if you wish to say the executive committee consists of the conveners from da da da. That's a motion. You pass that motion first, and then you would call for nominations. Once that motion's passed and you want to set those up, the same as any subcommittee, you would call for nominations. So you would already have to have a motion in place. If you've already got your subcommittees elected, but you don't have an executive committee and you want to set something up, then yes, you can move that motion. If that motion's approved, that automatically makes all of those conveners from those subcommittees, because they've already been elected, part of the executive.
Okay, Deb, that seems to be all the open questions we have at this current time.
Well, that's fantastic. I hope we've been able to answer.
So, okay, we've got another one just popped straight up.
One
Which order do P&Cs do AGM? General meeting held on the same night. Is the order to hold the general meeting first and then followed by the AGM at the end as the end meeting of the night?
No, P&C Federation would actually advise that you do it the other way around. And the reason for that is if you have a general meeting, then it's only your financial members. They don't have no one paying any membership at that meeting directly before the AGM. If they pay membership there and you say that that membership is okay for the AGM, it really causes a bit of a kerfuffle. It can also cause a lot of issues if people wish to stack an AGM. So they'll come along to that general meeting, pay membership, say, no, I want the membership to be for this year, knowing that there's something that's going to come up. However, knowing that at the AGM they want to vote for a particular person and it's just a bit of a bully tactic. They pay their membership, they come to the AGM, they vote that person in. And this has happened to P&Cs before, where a P&C had quite a large number of members already. So they had under 49, but they had a large number of members already. A whole lot of people came, paid their membership at that meeting directly for the AGM, purely so they could vote at the AGM. And then you never saw them again because they didn't pay any membership after they voted. Our recommendation and best practice is that you hold your AGM. Any new members that are interested in becoming members attend the AGM, pay their membership there, and any positions that are available or still vacant can then be filled at the general meeting directly after. If you do it the other way around and positions aren't filled, then it's not until, and you got no office bearers, but you got more financial members. So you got enough financial members to meet quorum, but no office bearers elected whatsoever. Then no financial transactions can be made until they're voted in, till you have signatories, office bearers as signatories and responsible persons. So it might be another month. You might have employees and you're getting yourself into a real pickle because those members can't pay those employees. So our recommendation is to follow it up with the general meeting following the AGM. If we collect membership at the first meeting, apparently incorrectly is apparently, oh, okay, I'm not, sorry. I'm reading that, but it's not clear.
I'd say it's if we collected membership at the first meeting, apparently it's incorrect prior to the AGM. Can the fee be returned for the members who are already members? That is, they've paid twice. So if they've paid twice, can the money be returned?
Well, we would recommend if they're already a financial member and they pay at the first meeting of the year, but the AGM hasn't come up yet, unless they don't intend to be meeting to continue their membership. If they can plan to continue their membership, then it's membership for the upcoming year. So they haven't actually paid twice. They're paying for the year following the AGM. If they're not willing to become members at the AGM or don't want to be members for the following year, I guess that's the decision of the P&C to make. Do you hand it back? Because I can't tell a P&C what to do. If they've collected it, then they have to decide and make the decision. I wouldn't see it as a big issue. I just see it as they've already paid for the upcoming year. One last question. If members pay at the AGM for this year, can they vote at the meeting and be nominated? No, they can't. So if you pay at the AGM and you weren't already a financial member when you arrived at the AGM, you can't vote because you've paid membership at the AGM. You have to wait till the close of the AGM. And following that, there is usually a general meeting. And at that general meeting, they're then a financial member and able to vote or be nominated. Okay. Okay, so if you collected money this month, this is from Isabel, but clearly stated that it was for 2021. So I guess the question is, Isabel, the money you collected this month, have you had your AGM yet, or is your AGM up and coming? Because we go from year to year. So if your AGM is due next month, then it is March 2021 to March 2022 is your membership, because that's AGM to AGM.
Isabel's come back with up and coming, and we stated that.
Yep, great, excellent.
And Belinda's asked about if we need to amend the bylaw on membership and we need to give a month's notice. Does the bylaw have to be done at an AGM, or can the vote to change happen at a general meeting?
Yeah, bylaws can be changed at a general meeting as well as the AGM. But in saying that, you still must give a month's notice. So many P&Cs meet every month. So this month you put on the agenda a proposal to amend the bylaws and what that amendment is. And then the following, and it's for members to review. And then the following meeting, a month later, sometimes it's longer than a month, the vote, a motion will be put forward for the amendment of the bylaw. So that the members would then vote on it. Okay, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. It's been fantastic. We've had lots of questions. As I said, this has been recorded, so we will put this up on our website, and you will receive an email when it is available. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thanks, Deb. Bye all.